Today, we are stepping away from the mundane light of day and plunging straight into a grim Gothic stage. We're diving into a really dark philosophical parable. It's a cautionary fable about hubris, vanity, and the terrifying blazing dawn of truth. Think of this explainer as the tale of the red specter and the mirror of ultimate exposure. So settle in and prepare yourselves, because the reflection you're about to see might just be your own. I descend from the thin, freezing air of the seventh solitude with predatory grace. Those are the words of our harbinger, the red specter. We're really embarking on a journey here to prune the poisonous flowers of human hubris. This definitely isn't your standard story of heroes and villains. Instead, it's a chilling philosophical descent into the absolute clarity of the abyss. And our guide through all this? The specter himself, a terrifying yet absolutely necessary catalyst for profound personal growth. Let's start with Act 1, the Golden Abbey's slumber. We have to begin our descent by looking at the very heights of arrogance. This is where our subjects start, right before their tragic realization. So, imagine a sprawling metropolis called the Merchant City. It's built solidly on what the text calls the gray stone of reason. And right at its heart stands an abbey made of such radiant gold that it literally blinds anyone who dares to look directly at it. This perfectly captures the core delusion of the people living there. They've built this massive monument to their obsessive, manicured order. In this fortress of the mind, every stray thought, every wild impulse is just brutally pruned down into a perfect cube. They genuinely, truly believe they've conquered the chaos of nature itself. But here's the catch. Beneath all that blinding gold lies a severe, deep-rooted rot. It's a concept called intellectual poverty. We absolutely need to define this right now, because it's the engine driving their doom. Intellectual poverty doesn't mean these people aren't smart. No, it means they are trading their raw, internal honesty for a polished reputation. It's this slavish obedience to the city's ledgers. To these merchants, anything that doesn't have a price tag attached to it is just a void. If you can't buy it, sell it, or count it on a spreadsheet, well, then it simply doesn't exist to them. So the crucial takeaway here is that this entire society exists in a state of collective slumber. It's like they're sleepwalking. They obsess over their manicured order and they completely mock anything that doesn't neatly fit into their ledgers. For example, the source material tells us about a weaver of shadow silk. They openly mock her for her profound purposelessness. Because of their intellectual poverty, they look at her and just see worthlessness. They're entirely blind to the fact that her untamed spirit is fundamentally, unshakably priceless. They've literally walled themselves off from genuine human depth. Which brings us to Act 2, Masks of Intellectual Poverty. This collective slumber doesn't just affect their minds, it physically alters them. It's a wildly powerful visual metaphor. Their faces grafted with porcelain masks painted with the static smiles of predictable, hollow safety. This symbolism is absolutely vital to understand. Think about porcelain for a second. It's perfectly smooth, right? Flawless. But it's also incredibly fragile. It projects this image of high civilization, a static smile that never ever wavers. But I want to ask you, what raw, unscripted terrors do you think they're hiding behind those static smiles? Sure, the masks provide safety, but it is a hollow, suffocating safety that completely starves the human soul. And right here, we see the tragic comparison of their early vanity. On one side, you have this hollow, ledger-driven existence, the polished reputation. And on the other side, you have the fundamentally genuine, untamed, priceless spirit that they're actively suppressing. They walk around thinking they're the absolute masters of their world, but the reality is they are prisoners of their own manicured design. Let's move into Act 3, the Trap of Vanity. This is the moment the status quo completely shatters. Enter the red specter. Now, the specter doesn't just politely knock on the door of their high holes. He arrives as a master gardener. And what's a gardener's job? To cut. He is there to aggressively prune the poisonous flowers of their hubris. The text gives us this stunning, horrifying anecdote. The specter watches a priestess striking down thirsty people, all while she claims she's just cleansing the unworthy for a holy cause. Watching this grotesque, hypocritical display, the specter just laughs, and it's described as sounding like the rustle of dry leaves against a tombstone. Creepy, right? Because what the specter sees right through is how they disguise their own raw terror. Notice how the priestess spins these elaborate tales. Or take the knight who claims his trembling hands are being moved by holy light, when in reality, it's just raw, unadulterated fear. They constantly use these noble justifications to cover up their own failures. By refusing to name the dark heat in their own blood, by refusing to acknowledge their basic human nature, they become wrecking balls to their own souls. They are basically puppets to forces they are entirely too cowardly to master. This perfectly illustrates the psychological trap of vanity. They take their raw, unscripted animal terror and dress it up in the robes of a noble cause. The specter acts as this brutal catalyst here, just ripping away their comforting lies. He forces them to see that their so-called high civilization is really just a frantic, desperate attempt to dress up basic animal panic. Now for Act 4, the Mirror of Exposure. The specter's arrival starts melting away the strongest locks of their highly curated luxury. The stage is totally set for judgment. Let's map this dark philosophical descent out. Step 1 is their collective slumber, that manicured illusion of the perfect cube we talked about. Step 2 is the arrival of the red specter from the seventh solitude. This is the chilling arrival of truth acting as a catalyst, which inevitably drags them kicking and screaming down to Step 3, ultimate exposure. You see, their descent into absolute clarity was never really a matter of if but when. At the very climax of this descent, the High Judge of the Void arrives at the city gates. The imagery here is intensely Gothic. Picture this. The judge is draped in heavy red robes, the exact color of internal magma. This represents the undeniable, explosive truth that has been boiling beneath the surface of their gray stone of reason all along. And the craziest part? The judge brings no army. He brought no army, only the mirror of polished obsidian. That line gives me chills. This is really the pinnacle of our explainer today. The judge stands right in the center of their shattered manicured order and initiates the ultimate exposure. He doesn't need swords or fire to destroy their city. He only needs to show them exactly what they are. Forced to look into the dark, reflecting depths of that obsidian mirror, the inevitable happens. The porcelain masks crack. When these merchants look into the glass, they don't see the divinity or the high civilization they've been telling themselves they possess. No, they see the horrific reflection of their own intellectual poverty. They see that they have literally locked their true, unshakably priceless spirits inside a suffocating, pressurized tomb. All the vanity is violently stripped away, leaving absolutely nothing but stark human truth. And finally, Act 5, Forging the Internal Flame. The absolute clarity of the abyss has been reached. The true tragedy of their existence is finally laid bare. The judge reveals the ultimate failure of their society. They spent their entire lives acting merely as merchants of existence. Think about it. They built ivory towers and threw these frantic, desperate parties for one single, pathetic reason: to hide from the inescapable truth of being human. Their entire manicured order wasn't some grand triumph over nature. It was just profound cowardice. But here is where the story pivots. The shattering of the mirror isn't just a punishment, it's a profound philosophical crossroad. They could remain victims of the collapse, or they could finally become the architect of the internal flame. This compares their early vanity directly to their final realization. The destruction of their brittle porcelain world doesn't have to be the end. The fire they spent their whole lives being terrified of, that internal magma, that raw human force, can actually be harnessed. It is the forging fire of genuine integrity. The Red Spectre wasn't there just to ruin their lives. He was there to act as a catalyst, forcing them to finally grow. Which brings us to the end of our cautionary fable. We all wear porcelain masks of predictable, hollow safety, don't we? We all tell elaborate tales to disguise our own raw terror. But when the mirror of ultimate exposure is held up to you and your brittle mask inevitably cracks, what are you going to do? Will you remain a weeping victim of your own collapse, or will you finally master that dark heat in your blood and become the architect of your own internal flame? Think on that the next time you smile your static smile. Until next time, stay curious.